Well, today the Missouri Department of Health released an update on the cyclospora outbreak. Every Sunday, Missouri's tracker is updated. Now, as of this week, Missouri is up to 216 cases, but data for specific counties is not available just yet. And an epidemiologist explains why it's taking so long to find the source of this outbreak.
Testing, the resources are somewhat limited, so they're not just going out there and testing every farm, every supplier, every producer for cyclospora right now, trying to find the source. These are very targeted investigations, and so they would not have been at that producer in the first place if there wasn't some really solid epidemiological data that kind of pointed them in that direction.
The CDC says there have been more than 1,600 cases confirmed, but it's also aware of more than 5,100 potential cases. Now, of the confirmed cases, nearly 10% of the patients have been hospitalized. This, as the CDC warns that cyclospora often goes underdiagnosed and underreported. So the true number of cases is likely higher than that 5,100 estimate.